Welcome to Algebra 2C. It's Friday. We're working on reflections and stretches. Over the past 2 days, we started with graphing parent functions, and then we worked on horizontal and vertical shifts, left, right, up, down. And now we're going to use those last 2 days, and we're going to add in reflections and stretches. Okay, so we need our prior knowledge to really work through these problems at hand. So let's look at number 1. We have negative on the outside of the square root of x. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to plot my original, okay? The square root of x, the parent function for the square root of x. I'm going to plot the 3 most important points. 0, 0, 1, 1, and over 4 up 2. Okay? So here's my original parent function. Okay? And now what I'm going to do is, since the negative's on the outside, this is the reflection. It's always going to be a reflection over the x-axis. So now with a different color, you should have 3 colored pencils. With a different color, I want you to take all these points and reflect them over the x-axis. Okay, so that 0, 0 is going to stay the same because it's on the x-axis. And then I'm going to take this 1, 1 and I'm going to reflect it over the x-axis. So it's going to be down here. And I'm going to do the same thing with the point 4, 2. Instead of going up 2, I'm going to go down 2 and right here. And now, here's my new graph. So the red is that final graph after the reflection. The black is the original, the red is the final. Okay, now let's look at the domain. Notice how we have a point at 0, 0, and our domain is all possible x values. So if you look, all our graph is to the right of that 0, 0 point. So my domain is going to be x is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, and remember that red is our final solution there, our final graph. So the range, all possible y values, everything is less than or equal to 0, because it's below that x-axis. Okay, let's look at the next one. This one has a reflection and a vertical shift. So I'm going to graph my original with my 3 important points. 0, 0, this is the absolute value. 1, 1, and negative 1, 1. So you should get this V shape right here. Now I'm going to graph the reflection in red. So I have my 0, 0, and I'm going to take, instead of going up 1, I'm going to go down 1. Instead of going up 1, I'm going to go down 1. And now I have my reflection. Okay. And now last but not least, I have my vertical shift up 1. So I'm going to take each point and I'm going to move it up 1. 0, 0 is going to move up to 0, 1. Negative 1 is going to move up to negative 1, 0. And then this last point is going to move up to 1, 0. So I've taken that whole red graph and I've moved it up 1. Okay, so the green is our final graph. Okay? So our domain is going to be all reals. So notice how it goes to negative infinity and positive infinity. And our range, everything, remember we're looking at the green graph, everything is less than or equal to positive 1. So y is less than or equal to positive 1. Okay, let's skip down to number 4. So now that we're dealing with the cube root, okay, so I'm going to graph the original parent function. We got 3 important points there. 0, 0, 1, 1, and negative 1, negative 1. Okay, so there's my parent function. I'm going to reflect it. Okay, so I'm going to reflect it all over the x-axis. 0, 0 is going to stay there. We go down here and up here. So now here's my reflection. And now I'm going to take that graph with my vertical and horizontal shift. So each point, 0, 0, I'm going to move to the right 1 and down 2. So there's my 0, 0 being moved to 1, negative 2. And I'm going to do that for each point. Okay, the right 1, down 2. The right 1 and down 2. And now, I'm going to connect those dots. Okay, really quickly, I worked with the parent function. I want to work with my reflection. So I'm going to go with these points. So I'm going to move to the right, down 2. Right here. To the right 1, down 2. To the right 1, down 2. Right here. And now here is my new graph. Okay. The domain and range, all possible x values. If you look at it, it's all reals here. And the range is the same idea. Look at those arrows going positive and negative infinity. Okay. Let's do one more on this side. Let's look at number 6. This is a square root with a vertical shift, horizontal shift, and a reflection. So I'm going to graph my original parent function here. 0, 0, 1, 1, and 4, 2. So there's my original parent function. I'm going to graph the reflection next. 0, 0, 1 comma negative 1, and 4 comma negative 2. So there's my reflection, but now I need the shifts. So I'm going to move to the left 2 and down 1. So each point on my red graph, to the left 2, down 1, to the left 2, 1, 2, down 1, to the left 2, 1, 2, down 1, and connect those. And now we have our new graph. Okay. The domain, x is going to be greater than or equal to that negative 2. And the range, y is going to be less than or equal to the negative 1. Okay. Let's flip over to the next page. We're going to try one on the back. This is going to be an absolute value graph. So we're going to look at number 7. It's got a vertical shift, horizontal shift, and a reflection. Okay, so I'm going to start with the original parent function. This is our V-shaped graph. Okay. So we've drawn the original graph. Now I'm going to do my reflection in red. So 0, 0 stays the same. Reflect over the x-axis. Okay, so here's my reflection. And now I'm going to take my red graph and I'm going to move it to the left 3 and down 4. So 0, 0 is going to move to the left 3, down 4 right here. I'm going to take negative 1 to the left 3 and down 4 right here. I'm going to take positive 1, negative 1 to the left 3 and down 4 right here. Now I'm going to connect those dots. And that's my new graph. Okay, let's talk about the domain and range. The domain, both arrows go to negative infinity, positive infinity, so we have all real numbers. And the range is based off that maximum point there. So the y value is negative 4, and it's going below that y value, so y is going to be less than or equal to negative 4. Okay, I want to try one more problem, number 8. This is a parabola here. Okay, so I'm going to graph my parent function, 0, 0, 1, 1, negative 1, positive 1. This is the U-shaped graph. Okay, so we start there. Let's go to the reflection. 0, 0 is going to stay the same. Negative 1 down here, negative 1 down here. I got my U. Okay, and now I'm going to move it left and right. So I'm going to move to the left 1 and down 3. So take my 0, 0, left 1, down 3 right there. I'm going to use green. Okay, so let me just connect those dots again, and I'm going to change to a different color. So here's my green. To the left 1, down 3. To the left 1, down 3. To the left 1, down 3. And now here's my new U shape. This has a reflection over the x-axis, and it has a horizontal shift and a vertical shift. Okay, the domain is always going to be all reals for parabolas, as you guys saw in the last chapter. And the range, it's below that vertex point, so y is going to be less than or equal to negative 3. Okay, let's go down to the second half of this page. So given a times some function, okay, so this is coefficient is the a, so it's some coefficient out front, that's not 1, and it's being multiplied by one of our parent functions. Okay, and what you're going to see here is that no matter what the coefficient is, as long as it's not as long as it's not 1, it's going to change each parent function in a very similar fashion. Okay, so the first part right here. If the absolute value of a is greater than 1, okay, then the graph appears to widen. Okay? If absolute value of a is less than 1, then the graph appears to narrow. And you'll see what that looks like. Okay? So let's do one of these multiple choice here. You're going to have to do the second one yourself. It's all about this coefficient. If you notice first, they're all x squareds. Okay, so they're all parabolas. So what we need to look at is we need to look at what the coefficient says. Is it bigger than 1? Is it less than 1? And then is it negative or positive? Okay, so it's looking at these first two. They are both a 3, but one of them is positive, one of them is negative. Now remember, the absolute value, if it's greater than 1, it's going to widen it. Okay, so we have a positive, meaning it's going upwards, and it's widened. So that looks like this one right here. So this one's going to be the 3x squared. And now we have the same widened shape, but now it's flipped over the x-axis. It's reflected, so we have this one right here. Okay, let's try that with the next one. Now we're looking at 1/3 as a coefficient. We see how this is less than 1, so it's going to narrow. One of them is going to be above the x-axis, and one of them is going to be reflected over it. So this one's going to be the positive one. And the one that's reflected over the x-axis is going to be the negative one. Okay, so these are the types of questions you'll see in terms of a coefficient other than 1 out front. Okay, you got to figure out, what do we know about it? Does it widen? Does it narrow? And is it reflected over the x-axis? So what I'd like you to do now is please finish with number 9 on this backside, the last multiple choice question, and then finish up the problems up front. And you'll be able to check with the substitute when you're done. Have a good weekend, guys.